Good morning, everybody. John Sfielkley here for GAI Insights. So the Gen AI News Briefing, bring your top news, essential, important, or optional, putting thoughts in your head, time in your day. And we have lots going on. Got some big announcements from Google and others. Fantastic new paper where a scientific paper has been created by AI and gets through human reviewers, and lots more. Today we have Paul Beyer, my co-founder, Tim Andrews, tech genius and longstanding a technologist, and Adam Rappaport, our tech wizard. So here we go. Ankash, we can start with the first article.
Sure, John. Just bringing up my screen.
All right. Oh my goodness, what's that background noise? That's very interesting.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
We can. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. So the first one comes from Google, and they have launched Gemma 3, the most capable model you can run on a single GPU or a TPU.
Yeah, very interesting. Top of the charts here. What do you think, Tim?
I think this is at least important. It's a product announcement. Again, it's a little over the top at one level, but maybe not so much. I mean, this is a pretty capable model. They didn't run any of the standard benchmarks, but they did run one that shows it's preferred by users over the top models, OpenAI, O3 and such. And it runs on a single chip. So you can run it on your phone, no problem.
Yep.
So that's remarkable. And we've been talking forever about the move to the edge. And this is a big step. This I don't know if this is a kind of a watershed moment. You never know that until after the fact, but it might be. And so it's at least important that people be aware of how rapidly things are getting to these smaller footprints that can run on individual desktops and phones and such.
Yeah, so you're going to rate this one important?
Yeah, at least important. It could be argued into essential. Yeah.
What do you think here, Adam?
You're on mute, Adam.
I was trying to come back to the right screen. Yeah, I couldn't find it. Yeah, I think it's important as well. It's a pretty powerful step in the right direction. One thing that caught my eye is that it's multimodal.
Right. I forgot about that.
Which means that it does visual reasoning capabilities, including short video. It said, so it opens up a lot, but it really opens up a lot for developers. And I don't think in the AI maturity scale, like enough companies, particularly with an open source Google solution, are really needing to know about this right now. So important, not essential, but a great step in the right direction. At 27 billion parameters for the biggest version of it. That's something people can comfortably run on a local desktop or even some of the powerful laptops these days.
What do you think here, Paul? I'm on the fence between important and essential.
I'm on important. I mean, I think it's always confusing all the naming. So there's Gemini, which are the larger models, and Gemma, which are the smaller models.
And open source. Gemma's open source. Gemini's closed. Yeah, that's another thing to remember.
Yep.
Oh, is Gemma's large as well?
No, it's open source. I'm saying though.
Right. Open source,
smaller models are open source, right?
Mm-hmm. And is this running on Android phones?
It doesn't. It's an open source project, so that's the thing that a good point that Adam made, which is this is a developer's tool.
Yeah.
There will probably be some test sites where you can try it out, but it's really a developer's tool. It'll run on anything you make it run on that has enough power.
Yeah.
They say it can run on phones, so I think you can run it on.
Yeah, I mean they have variants all the way down to 1 billion parameters, which is definitely where you can start running it on a phone at that point.
I mean, I have as important. I mean, obviously we talked about the Android market being massive, which is massive outside the United States and India and everyone else here. But open source tends not to be used widely yet from what we see in enterprise. So
right.
Important.
This is the beginning, and we'll see what people develop on it.
Yeah, I think definitely important. Ashish is saying not yet on phones. So there we go. All right. Important it is. Akash, next.
Okay, the next one that we have for today again comes from Google DeepMind, and it talks about their Gemini robotics model.
Yeah, Adam, what'd you think about this? Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, another exciting step was, John, was it just yesterday we were talking about that, the news with regards to robotics and the confluence of the robotics with the intelligence and how it's going to radically transform everything,
Yeah.
right? And here's Google again, just, the hits keep coming. They come out with an open source model that you can run on your laptop, that competes with like DeepSeek and OpenAI, O1 models, and then right on the heels of that, they're on this entire other edge of things, right? Making a version of their Gemini model that is fine tuned for robotics. I think I was leaning towards important because it's an exciting development in that space, but I feel like after the essential news we did yesterday, this is maybe an optional incremental change as just another competitor in a very quickly crowding market.
Yeah, I don't know. I was leaning toward at least important on this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the videos are amazing. I mean, in terms of the dexterity, the ability of the robot to, to change its goals as it's going through it. It's just the other thing is, it is from our friends at Google. Pretty good distribution here. But what do you think here, Tim? Are you on important?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I was sort of between optional and important. Again, it is remarkable, but if you remember Figure, they had a video like this a year ago almost, with a very dexterous robot that could be talked to by a human and ordered around and responded. This one is more capable, it does appear, but it's a simpler robot. It's just 2 arms. It's not a full robot. So so it's not a huge breakthrough at any given level, and it's research, so it'll take a long time before the stuff gets through. But I think it's important for people to be aware of just how good these things are getting, because I feel like this is like the space program. It'll have spin-off effects. Like if they just make the underlying contextual models better in some ways, the vision models and stuff, that'll have spin-off effects on other stuff. And as we said many times, robotics is one of the big waves of the future. So this is going to be hugely important. But to the average AI leader, robotics is not an issue today. If you're in manufacturing, if you're in certain areas, I think it's essential reading. But I think for the average one, I'd give it an important to be aware of this trend and the potential spin-offs.
Okay, we're headed toward important here, Paul. What do you think?
For our reader, I actually had this as optional. I mean, I don't think we know of that many of our AI leaders who are implementing physical robots, although certainly the ones with manufacturing, they're tracking this trend. So I had it as optional.
All right. Optional it is, although these videos are cool. All right, next, Akash.
Okay, the next one comes from Sakana AI. So they had introduced an AI scientist a few weeks back. Now that AI scientist has generated its first peer-reviewed scientific publication.
Yeah, I was on this one. I was going to rate this one as important. The scientific advance sits underneath all of these things that our AI leaders doing, and one of the things that that's interesting here. Well, first of all, the way they did this is a completely AI generated paper. Then they didn't let the reviewers know. They let the reviewers know that 3 of 43 papers that they were reviewing were generated by AI, but they didn't tell them which ones. So this was done in a very, I think, ethical and clinical manner to make sure that the review process didn't, the review and publishing process did not get polluted. But it turned out that one of those 3 papers did, in fact, get just chin the bar to be publishable, according to 3 different reviewers. And if any of you have submitted academic papers, the way this works is that usually submit a paper, it goes to 3 what are called associate editors. Those associate editors make a judgment call, reject, revise, and resubmit, or publish as is. And this one it basically made it just over revise and resubmit. And then they also had their internal review of it by their own folks, not the associate editors, and that it didn't quite make the grade. But the fact that it got very close, and then of course they let folks know, and they didn't go ahead and publish it. But I think this is a big thing that an AI robot can generate something that human reviewers look at as publishable insights. And interestingly, the paper itself is about some of the complexities of putting together, advanced semantics in the context of neural networks, which is part of what was going on in the creation of the paper itself. So anyway, but where are you guys? Tim, where are you on this one?
I would give this an important. I agree pretty much with what you said. Again, the old, well, it's not old, it's a new meme, but I think it's actually a good one in this case. The one-liner that says this is the worst it's ever going to be, right? So, so we're just at the beginning of this road, and it's really interesting that they can generate this quality of research. So it's not just, so again, this is the key thing here for me is it's getting beyond just brainstorming. I think most people, when they get exposed to large language models and they get past the, create me a poem for my retreat or something, the parlor trick stuff, one of the things they find very quickly is it's the best brainstorming partner you've ever had, just about. And that's part of research, right? But this goes beyond that to take the brainstorming part and then flesh it out. And that is a big step forward. We've seen that with the deep research stuff. So it's still, as you said, just barely there in terms of what we would consider high quality output. But that's pretty darn good considering this whole thing just started a couple of years ago. And this research stuff, you could say, even less has even less lifespan so far. So
all right.
Important.
Adam, Paul, you okay with important here?
I actually had essential. I mean, I actually think this whole notion that we saw in Davos that 95% of cognitive work in 2 years is going to be done by the robots and better is an important theme for the AI leader to understand, particularly around their $100,000 plus knowledge workers. And I think this is a data point on that whole debate. So in my mind, I'd want to make sure that all the AI leaders are aware of this.
All right, we're up in the ante here from Paul, a rare upgrade.
That is true.
The curmudgeon.
No, he's put his German away for this morning. All right, Adam, where are you on this?
I was on the lower end of important, so maybe we land on important. I think it is going to have a major impact, and it's really not quite there yet either. And they've been working hard, focused only at solving this problem. It's something our AI leader needs to be aware of, how good these things are getting. In some ways, it's almost like the AI scientist Turing test, right? If it can get its research peer reviewed and published. So it's important news, but I'm not sure what they would do with it at this point to warrant it being.
Well, I mean, every life science company AI leader needs to know about it. Anybody submitting a paper to executives need to know about it.
Yeah.
SEC reports for 10K analysis. I mean, I think, John, this is a data point of, you can't fool the high school teachers.
You can't have this write your SEC reports. We're going to be able to do that someday. Yeah, that's amazing, but this thing can barely get 2 out of 3 research to say, edit and resubmit. Right.
Well, so yeah, I think you have to be careful to generalize. There's 2 issues. First of all, they did it on a very technical subject, which is kind of an advantage because this particular subject is recent, well documented. There's lots of training available. So it's unclear how well it will generalize. We'll see. But I think there's more work.
It's not there yet, but I understand why you want to elevate it to their to their attention.
I don't know. I'm kind of more where Paul is. I mean, if we step back for a minute, because we do this every day, right? I mean, if we step back for a minute, this is a robot creating a paper reviewed by experts that's going to get published. I mean, that's amazing. And they didn't alter one word in the thing.
That is true.
I mean, I don't know, man. All right, I'm gonna power the chalk, baby. I'm gonna I'm in a dictatorial mood. We're going essential. All right, next. Oh gosh.
Yes. So the next one comes from AWS, and it talks about how Credit AI is transforming financial analysis.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, they decreased the cost, I think, by 75% with their new. This certainly reads like a vendor created case study that goes through how their solutions architects basically save the client 75% of the cost. What do you think of this thing, Tim?
I think this is maybe the single best case study I've ever read. It's comprehensive, it's well argued, it goes into good detail, but not incredible technical detail on the solution, and cites all the early parameters of success. So I would rate this essential, to tell you the truth, because for an AI leader, this is what you want. This is, it's a little deeper than you might need, so you can sort of skim through some of the stuff. But I think it's good to know the basic technical requirements, and they go through everything from a migration from an old system, security requirements, guardrails, and how they did that, to the basic solution and how they did the basic solution. I think it's really, really well done. It's maybe the best one I've ever seen. And they included the business factors of what they've improved and how they've improved it. And, you've been in financial services, and so have I. Credit analysis is maybe the toughest thing there is to do, because unlike stocks, which are standardized, traded publicly, and have a million analysts, credit instruments are incredibly obscure, very difficult to understand. Risks are complicated, and so these tools are going to have a big impact, I suspect.
All right, we got a vote for essential here from our AI leader at Manette. What do you think here, Adam?
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised actually by Tim's exuberance. I see where you're going with it. The problem I had, I think, was just that it makes the reader work pretty hard to understand the impact and the benefits, and it's so thorough in some ways that it's almost difficult to consume the headlines or the main takeaways in terms of what can I do with this. I wish they had done a better job of sort of setting it up and setting the stage and framing the outcomes more clearly and telling the story, versus just like very, very explicitly proceeding through all of the information. And it is excellent and it is thorough. I wouldn't argue that, but really the conclusion, the punchline, right? They had over a 75% reduction in operating costs and a 250% boost in engagement. And that should be screaming at the top of this entire thing, instead of in the last paragraph of the entire article. Like, a lot of people would never get to it, but it is phenomenal results, and I think they could have done a better job of conveying that and telling that story. I could absolutely support it. Important. I think an essential read is really pushing our AI leaders who are time starved.
Yeah. I mean, you could say just read the conclusion stuff first. Read the bottom of the
read the conclusion
first,
so you understand why this is so important. Yeah. You're on mute, John.
Yeah, which I tend to do anyway in terms of reading the conclusion. Paul, we're heading for essential here, man. Essential important. Where are we going?
I'm fully supporting Tim. I mean, for Tim to be that impressed with it says a lot to me, and I'm really into case studies right now. I do agree, Adam. It's long, and I think we got to continue to make progress on our 2-page PowerPoint summary for these things here. But this is really good, and I've got 4 AI leaders I'm going to be sending this to right after this call in the financial services industry.
Yeah, I think Ron makes an interesting point too from Colaberry. That legacy update, which this is, right? It was uneconomical before, and now it's fantastic. All right.
The other thing that I'll point out that I think is interesting, and we'll see again. You can only tell again in hindsight how it really works. And we've got another article that'll touch on this, but this is anecdotal. But this is the 3rd or 4th time I've seen Anthropic in an AWS solution being talked about, and in this case, a migration from a mixed solution involving probably OpenAI or at least Microsoft in some sense. So I keep hearing a lot of good things about Anthropic and AWS, and this is a classic enterprise thing. So I think when it comes to getting enterprise architectures in regulated industries with lots of issues, they're starting to make some real progress.
Cool. And Tim, I think a couple different things. I think I want to acknowledge Ashish's comment that we're getting soft here, and we got some great inflation going on. But the start factor, John, is too low.
Since when am I the voice of reason trying to talk us down off essentials? Like, that's so unusual.
But Tim, I come back to your point, though. I think if you look at the major hyperscalers, AWS to me has really got its wind in its sails on the enterprise. So we've got Microsoft seemingly pulling away and a lot of the conflicting things that they're redoing their model with OpenAI. We have Gemini or Google, which really hasn't never been that strong in the enterprise, and hyper focused and engaged AWS in the last 6 to 9 months. And you put that plus Anthropic and Claude, and boy, they are really impressively executing. And this is a case study, and this is stuff they've been executing. So
yep. Yeah, well, we can rate it where we want, but I'll tell you, if I had one article out of this whole set of articles I'd want my AI leader to read, this would be it, because this is comprehensive. It's like, okay, if I need to implement a solution, here at least I have laid out everything I need to pay attention to.
All right, essential it is. Next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Poe, and it talks about the early 2025 AI ecosystem trends.
Yeah, we had some very interesting data in here, and I was impressed by just how dynamic the model use adoption is across the Poe platform. I don't know how many folks they have. They have over 4 million. Late last year, they had over 4 million users. So this is quite a good sample in terms of how people are using these different models. What do you think here, Adam?
I thought this was at least important for our AI leader to understand.
At least important. Who's doing the inflation now, baby?
Well, I could see an argument made for why it would be essential, especially as you look at multi-model and understanding what's being used in market, what's gaining adoption, and also the fact that it illustrates not just for text generation, but for image as well as video generation, really emphasizes and highlights the importance that they're both going to be playing in industry as well, as we get out into sort of some of the marketing and the branding and the sales and other brand parts of our business, other than just sort of the coding and the summarizing and the text models. And to have effectively all of the major players in all three of those arenas, being able to just look at 3 charts and see how all of them have been doing over time with which models is just it's a phenomenally written article and provides some really rich data. So at least important. Yeah.
All right, we're going for important at least here. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I know we're on the great inflation track today, but this is at least important, maybe essential. It's a short article, and it's a reminder. We've had this discussion before. Those of us who remember search and other big markets in hindsight, we talk about Alta Vista and Yahoo and all the others that were leaders in search, and Google ended up being the monster at the end of the day. But it took a long time to sort that out. And to me, that's the message here is, wow, I was shocked that Anthropic was equal to OpenAI in just, a short period of time. They are now splitting the market with OpenAI. And so that's a big change. And I'd be nervous if I were Sam Altman seeing these charts. And the other one, which is the Alta Vista case, is the image stuff, where Dolly and the early movers, everybody thinks, oh, the early mover always wins. Well, maybe not. Flux is less than a year old, maybe a year and a half old, and it's a dominant player all of a sudden. So, and I remember again so vividly when I got a call from a colleague who said, you got to try this Google search thing. It's unbelievable. And it took a long time, but it seemed like overnight, Google just took over the world in search. So if you really have a better product, substantially better, you can make a lot of progress in these early markets, and leadership can change quite dramatically. So I think it's important for leaders to be aware of what is happening and that the changes can be so quick.
All right, Paul, important or essential?
I was important here, but I did want to highlight, Tim. I also remember the same thing. I mean, we were so enamored with Alta Vista, and Google came out of nowhere within, like a whole week.
Yeah.
Our entire dev team and everyone at Open Market switched over. So the switching cost, and I think that on that side, the switching cost, since everyone's building a lot more orchestration capability into their enterprise intelligence apps, to be able to switch to the latest intelligence for my app, it's increasingly becoming commodity and a must-have in architecture, which I think just lends to your point to low switching costs means that a late entrant can really gain share.
Yeah.
And both the risks associated with vendor lock and the importance of being able to pivot and stay dynamic in terms of models you're using as they continue to innovate and push the envelope.
Yeah, I think Ashish asked, does this mean no moat for AI? Large models, and Vivek notes that this is consumer switching. It's very dynamic. But I'm going to land on important on this. I think this is stuff they should understand. And another time, I'll tell you a story about Alta Vista. Part of it was technology, but they also were incredibly mismanaged.
Yeah.
They had, I had a team.
Let's hear it for digital equipment.
Well, they were also getting some awful advice from Bain at the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Important it is. Next, Akash.
Did we rate it essential or important?
Important it is.
Okay. So the last one is a use case or a case study which comes from OpenAI and Nubank. So it talks about how Nubank is elevating customer experiences with OpenAI.
Yeah, I had this one between optional and important for me. It's a good case study. It goes through, how OpenAI, changed the call center operations. In one of our studies, we did an estimate that 50% of or more of call center operations would be automated with these kind of tools, and you see those numbers here. Much better response time. Clearly, call centers. It's a nice case study, which makes me want to say it's important. Give some specifics about the volumes and so forth, and where the labor substitution with capital was, and what's happening to the experience. It is very much vendor written. So I was going to give it an important, and I just want to be mindful of time here, guys. We want to make sure we hit the number. Adam, you okay with important?
Yeah, I was between important and optional as well. I would have liked a little deeper understanding of the how.
Mm-hmm.
They mostly just said, "Look, we've done these amazing things," but didn't really give anyone much to understand in terms of what they could do other than work with OpenAI.
Yeah.
But it is OpenAI, and it does bring a really good use case. So I'm good with important.
Yeah. Although I'll say I read the last sentence and I didn't think that was the end of the article. Where's the rest?
Where's the rest? That's funny. Yeah. Paul, where are you? Optional or important here?
Optional.
Optional. Okay. All right. We're going to give this bad boy an important. And Ankash, what's our total? Any announcements or anything? Paul, any quick news from the thing? From Human?
No, I'm here in Vegas. We're wrapping up Human X. Great conference. A friend and colleague at Brand Rank, Pete Mann, they have presented at our weekly learning lab. His company won the startup contest. So they actually had, I think it was 40 companies went through 2 or 3 rounds, and so congrats.
Yeah, I think it was over 500 to begin with. It's Pete Blackshaw. You said Pete Mann. Pete Blackshaw.
I'm sorry, Pete Blackshaw. Correct.
Yeah. Awesome. So we have 2 essentials here today, 3 importance, lots of reading for our AI leader. Anything else, Adam, Tim? We're good to go?
Good to go.
All right. Akash, thank you so much. We'll see you guys. See everybody tomorrow. Bye-bye.